Yes. We transported him, met him at the ER bay. My cardiologist group, my cath lab staff, myself met him there. We transported him up to the cath lab on the stretcher, still connected to the monitor, simulating a STEMI process. He stayed on that cart. We transferred him over to the cath table, simulated that we were doing a cath on him, and walked him through that process. Obviously, we did not start an IV on him, but we simulated that. He stayed on the table until they went through that process with him. Then he got off of the table. He came into our cath lab area, and I'll show you some pictures here. He viewed what it actually looked like to see a cath videos done, and our cardiologist went through that with the steps with him and showed him what it was to have a stent placement. And then we did a tour. We left there and we toured our CVICU, our step down unit, and then we went down to our CVOR. I had coordinated with my cardiologist and my CV surgeons. And when we went to each of the units, I had the directors on that unit available to talk to him, and any of the staff that was available to tell them what kind of patients they saw, how long the patients were there, and so forth and so on. He asked many, many questions, and his wife attended with him because she was just as excited to see what the program was about. When we went into the CVOR, one of my cardiac surgeons happened to be between two lung cases and a heart case. And he approached us and introduced himself. And we told Congressman Rose that if he and his wife would like to see one of or two of the OR suites that they were available, he would have to either change into scrubs or put a clothing over his clothing. And he was dressed like in the picture, of suit and tie and the whole bit. And I just looked at him and I just said, "It's your call." He said, "Let's do it." So he put all the scrub stuff on, went into the OR. The cardiovascular surgeon went over stuff with him, showed him all the equipment. He then graciously, without my prompting, proceeded to tell the congressman how he refers all of his patients to cardiac rehab, that he felt that that is the most important part of the post-care for this patient, and that he's so excited that I was there and that I had arranged this so that he could share that with the congressman on the importance of that. We then led into just a little bit of the discussion of the HR 3348. I had already presented him electronically with all of that information before he came to do the tour. And we had scheduled to have a luncheon with our administrative staff, our cardiologist and our surgeons, and my cardiac rehab staff. And because of time delay, and he asked so many questions in every area, that we were not able to even make it to our cardiac rehab program. And so he graciously said, "I'll be back next month. I can give you at least another hour. I would love to come when you actually have a class going on, so I could also talk to your patients while I'm there." So we have that set up. We did not take any pictures of him when he was leaving the mayor's office, any of them in the EMS or on the cath lab table, because we were fearful that it would get out in the public. And his wife and their people really wanted to make sure that did not get out on Facebook or anything, because we didn't want anybody to think he truly was having a STEMI and didn't read the stuff. So we did not take pictures until he was off of the cart. So I just have a couple pictures to show you. This is he and his wife with our physicians, our administrative staff, and myself, one of my staff members, and the gentleman in the blue is the cath lab director. And that was in one of the cath lab suites. This is just another picture of myself and one of my staff members, which I'm very excited to say is getting very much involved now in AACVPR. So I'm very happy about that. And she just passed her certification exam, by the way. This is the doctor explaining to him the images he was seeing from the cath on the screen there. You just can't see the screen. This is when we went up to the CVICU unit so he could talk with individuals there. And we did preface by sending him not only the map of the United States and the desert map, we also developed a map that showed him the areas, and ours is up in the northern portion, so he could see all of the areas of his counties that were not having easy access for their patients. to attend a cardiac rehab. Then we had also preferenced him with all the other stuff that AACVPR had posted, including just a couple things that I put on here, and how he could, when he was ready to sign on, where he could send that over to Representative McGovern's office. And just, quickly, I just tell you, it was so wonderful. I was so nervous, though. I will tell you, I was extremely nervous because I wasn't sure that he would really embrace this. And I didn't want it to be an embarrassment to my hospital administration or to him by asking him to do this as the patient role. But I couldn't have asked for a better day. Everything was just perfect. On the last screen, I just, said it took the whole team to make this happen. All of these individuals for it to have a positive impact. And I'm just glad that we kind of thought out of the box, stepped out of the box, and took that on. And I would really encourage you to do that. I know we're in a smaller area, but don't just assume that they won't, because he admitted right from the beginning he had very little knowledge on the medical side. He's more on the agricultural side, but he really wanted to learn and was very, very happy to be here. It was a great experience.
Very impressive. That will go far as he's weighing the merits of the bill, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Did you want to cover just also Matt's? Is Matt on? I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think he was going to be able to meet. Yes. One of the things that he gave as an analogy every time we were meeting that had a really powerful impact was to help them to understand, especially those that do not have the medical background, to make it easier for them. He said, it's kind of like what we're asking for is like what the physical therapy side of medicine already is able to do. You go in, maybe you've had a fracture or some kind of orthopedic surgery, and then your physician discharges you and they want to set you up with some physical therapy.
What a pop.
And how difficult that is to access some of those services inside the hospital. Sometimes you have to park so far away. It's just not convenient to your home. And that physical therapy offices are set up in all kinds of locations, even in shopping center locations. They make it very easy for people to get into the door from their car when they're still trying to use their crutches and their walkers, and they don't have to walk long distances. They're able to bill for that. It's just much more convenient for them versus sometimes when we're locked into facilities closer to the hospital, the parking and the distance of walking is so much further. And not just for people in the rural areas, but also even in the suburban areas. He really focused on that, trying to get on a bus line. I mean, just all kinds of those issues. But I didn't say it as eloquently as he does, but he definitely was able to get that point across. And as soon as he would present it, they had, I think, a much better understanding of what we're asking for to be able to do by passing this bill to be further away from the hospital setting.
Yeah, I think it was a good point. I got the question with a few of you on that call, and there you could tell they were envisioning the PT corner, the PT direct access on every corner of, especially in the area. And we said that's not us. We can't do that. We have a hospital campus, and made the point. But Matt's point, I think, was, you're right. I think it was well received. Thank you, Debbie, for
You're welcome.
Kevin doing it and planting the seed, and that would be
You're welcome. I appreciate it. I'm glad you gave me a chance to share because I was pretty excited about it.
Deservedly so. Let me hit just a couple stats for everybody, and then I do want to dig back into some experiences that you've had that we can all maybe learn from. We are up to 32 sponsors on HR 3348. 32, I'm sorry, and 42 on HR 1956. Now, remember, we have a total of 435 members in the House of Representatives. So we are not near where the number might persuade inclusion. So we hope that will keep ticking up. I was on a number of calls with folks, and we've started to educate senators some on the Senate Finance Committee, because that's the committee of jurisdiction that's going to care about this bill when it comes to the closed doors at the end and there's a package. And we did get that question from a couple senators, what do you don't have a bill, are you educating the Senate? And I knew they were talking about Senate Finance Committee, so we were able to answer that. And that's going to be Wyden in Oregon, who's the chair of that, and Crapo in Idaho. And we did have a Senate bill before, but that process will begin, and the list of Senate Finance Committee members will be back up on the Day on the Hill page, because we want to be ready when we do get another introduction on the Senate side. And remember, I've said this before, that doesn't mean that this bill won't be tucked in to a larger vehicle just because there's not a Senate bill, but the Senate side would have to be aware of it and know it's coming. And a reminder, this is on the Dear Colleague letter, but if you're dealing with a Democrat, it shall be loose, they would call in Mr. McGovern's office to add the name Joel Corrales, if you're talking to a Republican, who they would call in Adrian Smith's office, since it's a bipartisan bill. So that question had come up a couple times, and I just noticed now it's at the bottom of the Dear Colleague. So maybe you all knew that already. So I'd like to allow some time here for others to answer some of the questions on this agenda. Was there anything in particular that seemed to really strike home with them? And I'm going to let Julie Brown start with the letter, Julie, that you used so effectively in California, the congressional.
Yes. Hello, everybody. So I was mining through the letter from 2018. So I have a unique position with this in that I've been the same person since 2019 to work the bill for California. And so what I have done is when I emailed again in 2021, when we got our new bill number, I just used the same email thread. So the people that I'm connecting with can see that I have been emailing and reaching out to people for 4 years now. So initially I made notes on who was the California people. And so what I did was I emailed the names that were in the letter, and I said, maybe you can look back and see that, Representative Schiff was one I emailed yesterday, and I have an appointment. He signed this letter, so he's well familiar with our issue. And I have gotten appointments for every single one of the California representatives who signed that letter. So I was not thinking that letter of like old news history, but it really was very effective.
And I will say, Julie reminded me of, we were, when we were setting this up this year, I thought, we don't want to overwhelm people with too much information and kind of set that aside. And then Julie was having good success with it resonating with those who had signed it. Hey, these are your own words. These were your concerns of what might happen. And look, it happened to us. So it's back on the Day on the Hill page, and it's worked for me too, Julie, very, very, I think effectively to say, look, you're the one who was pointing this out in 2018 to CMS. We went to CMS, and here's where we are because of that. So if you haven't looked at that letter, one is from the Senate, one is from the House of Representatives. Go back and take a look if you're on your future calls, just to make sure if they signed on, you're going to want to send that ahead and just remind them that they have concerns, and for a number of years now.
Another thing, being on it for so long, those young, smart, organized people, they switch roles often. And so I've been passed off to multiple people. So somebody who we connected with previously may not be there anymore. So we want to stay on top of that as well.
Yeah, it's discouraging when you have to start all over again with a new one. Another thing that I noticed is if you get, we've talked about this, but if you can get that institutional support from within your district, the hospital, like Debbie was able to do, like George Heron on the calls I was on with him in Utah, he could say Intermountain Health System supports us in this. And well, they own practically all the hospitals in Utah, but that was a very powerful statement, because every congressional member in Utah knows Intermountain Health and it's very important to them. Or like Kate Trainer saying, Mass General supports this bill. And they both had to go to their advocacy teams to do that. But George's advocacy person is going to follow up on calls as well, which is great. That's a powerful voice to follow up on that. And another thing that you might share here, whether a success, or was there anything of pushback or resistance that you either weren't prepared for, or couldn't respond to, or felt like I could have done a better job preparing you for it? So going forward, we all know. Anybody?
So we have a question in Alabama I just wanted to offer about what do the MDs think of these bills? So particularly for the nurse practitioner service.
Yes, and we can say that all of the professional organizations are supportive of this bill. ACC, AHA, all on the chest side, American Thoracic Society, chest, the thoracic, the American Association of Chest Physicians. And that's how I have answered that. And there's no opposition. It's not like PNA is out, in oppose, or A, and all those other acronyms are opposing it at all. So that's the good answer, I think.
Well, that's what I said. I just wasn't 100% sure.
Yeah. And I didn't want to put in print, I didn't go around and get official signatures from these organizations, but we've all been working in this space together on this bill on the 1956 as well. So I could say with confidence, the ones I shared with Julie, the rest I don't want to speak without, an official kind of verification, but we've heard no opposition in 5 years, really, is the bottom line. So Pat?
Yes, we had an interesting question today. That was the first time I ever heard this question. And I really don't know this answer, but this was a healthcare staffer for one of our congressmen here in Pennsylvania. And it was the first time we met with this young man, and he was very unfamiliar. And so we gave him the briefing about our bill and so on. But one of his questions was, have we, the organization, whether that would be the regional, in our case, tri-state, or AACVPR, have we briefed the Energy and Commerce Committee? And I absolutely do not know if there's now I took it to be a formal committee briefing as opposed to one-by-one orientation of congressmen on that committee, but I'm not aware if there's a mechanism for that.
I think what he was asking, we talked about where we know that what I've been saying is Chairperson Pallone and McGovern are totally aware of this. We went to them, Joni went to Pallone, New Jersey, and they're very aware of the need for the bill. And they've stated, both to Joni and to McGovern, that we are fully in support of this bill. Just bring us our committee members. That's what we need to see for us to stand up in the, in that closed room when they decide. And our bill is officially, it's in the Energy and Commerce Health Subcommittee, and we've been pushing for a hearing. We don't have to have a hearing on this bill for it to go. 1956 had a hearing last session, if you recall, where their president of AHA stood up and said, this is a great bill, along with, 25 other bills. But we haven't had the opportunity. We hope to have it, but our bill can go even without that hearing. But that's probably what they were kind of about asking, I think.
Okay, thanks.
Karen, this is Sunny from Missouri. Hi.
Hey.
I had the same question. Carolyn Beard and I had the same question from Jason Smith's, Representative Jason Smith's health staffer. And so I'm glad that that was brought up so I can follow up.
Like where is it, or?
Note that specifically if we had spoke with Representative or with Pallone and with the Energy and Commerce as well as the Ways and Means committees.
Yeah, we did that right out of the box and have continued. Joan has continued to check back with Pallone saying we're working on it, and same with Kate with McGovern and Adrian Smith too. Yeah.
Karen, do you want me to add about Representative Eshoo?
Yes, please.
So Representative Eshoo is a chairwoman of the Health Subcommittee for Energy and Commerce, and she's from California. We have Missy, I don't know if Missy is on the call. A hospital in her district is El Camino. We have the folks there working her, but I've met twice already, 2 different teams, meetings with her health advisor, who says that she's aware of the bill and she's very supportive. She just cannot be a sponsor. And then yesterday I sent my little reminder because she also signed the letter. So I was just pointing out to her health. What I keep doing is I just keep bringing our bill back into their awareness, move it into the top of the email queue. So, and then we have a few here already. I've been working the committee members, and we have 2 Energy and Commerce Committee members who have co-sponsored. So if that's helpful.
Very, yeah, thank you. Thank you, Julie. We're keeping them in the loop for sure.
Karen, Holly and I had a question that we just wanted to make sure we were giving the right answer. We kind of gave our opinion about why did they kick the can down the road for the 6 years before the bill is going to be implemented? We just gave our opinion.
Oh, wait a minute. Oh, you mean 1956? I mean, we passed it in 2018?
Right.
It was all cost. It was because of the cost. That's what we almost landed on the floor and didn't make it into that bill, but by deterring the cost, they were able to include it in there.
Okay. We kind of thought that, but just want to make sure we were saying the right thing.
Yeah. Now 1956 has some cost attached to it still. Because remember, the cost is not cost savings, it's actual cost. More patients will get it. Oh yeah, oh great. So there is some cost, and I've heard that a few times from folks. It might be a little bit of a barrier on 1956.
Okay.
I don't want to quote, the CBO was, I think, around 40 million a year, but that doesn't mean it's going to stop it. So, and remember, ours doesn't have any cost. Right, our external CBO was very low to be able to say almost no cost, and because of that, Smith's office and McGovern's office was very pleased with that and said perhaps we can expedite getting an official CBO score for HR 3348. So that's what we're pushing on as well. In case you get someone saying, well, where's the CBO score at? So. Who else? Stacy Greenway couldn't join the call, but she said she'd had some nice correspondence back and forth after their group call. She had a patient, that's a smaller district, but she had a patient send a letter. And she felt like that was very impactful with that staffer who went to the trouble to answer back and say, wow, this really shows that, what you do is really appreciated by patients. So she felt like that was very much worth doing. I don't know how many of you have been able to include patients on your calls. We did in Florida, but I haven't joined any other calls where there were grateful patients or advocates. But don't forget, they're critical to this as well, like Debbie had. She made him a patient.
Well, and I wanted to say one more thing. I'm glad you brought that up. I had a patient today that just graduated from my program, and he is friends of one of my hospital board members. And he went and presented to the board member his positive experience today. And he said that the cardiac rehab was the most emotionally fulfilling thing that he's been in since he's had this event, even better than when he was in the hospital. And he told the board members that if you have any dollars, you need to be putting it in cardiac rehab. So I don't know what, I told him, I don't know what else better I could say it myself. So I thanked him profusely.
When we'd have a patient graduate and they'd want to do something for us, we'd say, just write a letter to the administrator and tell them what you got out of this. And so they were always being reminded, right? That's hopefully job security.
Karen, this is Ginny in Massachusetts. Can
Yeah.
you hear me, Karen?
Yeah. Yep.
So you were on the call with our representative, Lori Trahan staffer, and
Yes.
I thought it was positive. It was helpful to have you on the call. And my team was great at pulling up her past legislation that she supported
Yes.
on cardiac and healthcare. So that was an important thing that you recommended, that we find out what bills they've supported about cardiac issues in the past. But, and she sounded very positive about this. She's on Ways and Means and on the subcommittee for health, but she's currently in Poland, so it's kind of like really hard to, and I'm on Facebook with her. So I know what the representative is doing. When I connect with that staff person, I know exactly where my congresswoman is and what she's up to, and saying, I know she's busy right now. She's dealing with Ukraine, however, and she responds. But
Wow.
I'm just saying, it's really hard I always find it hard to say, these people are dealing with so many issues. How do you raise your issue to be what they need to look at? But I felt like you were on the call. What do you think?
I thought it was a great call. I thought she was very receptive, and that's Trahan's job. She's on health subcommittee of Ways and Means, right? Not E&C. I can't remember, but that's her job to know, especially health issues. So that staffer was well aware of that, and it's I know we can just always be overwhelmed with other issues that are so important and critical, but ours is too. And you're right. I think, we have to balance it, but not forget that we're here for the patients, and that's
right. And the program's closed in her own city, that she was not aware of that. And that was a helpful thing to know. That was striking on some of the calls I was on, how many programs had closed or were shut down, or, they couldn't get out to the clinic. George Herron in Utah put a whole list of 20 areas in Utah. I think there were towns where they don't have any access, zero access, because they're so rural, and we can't put a clinic up there because we find that Intermountain financially can't do it. And that was pretty impressive. That long list of all these don't have any access. So anybody else?
Karen, this is Sue in Connecticut. I've been unable to get through to Congressman Larson's staffer via email, via phone call. We have a former physician that received cardiac rehab at one of our centers, ready to go. Any suggestions, and I'm late onto the call, I apologize, to try to make some headway. I mean, we all know that they're busy, and we all know about Ukraine and are sensitive to that, but any thoughts?
Yeah, why don't you send me that in an email, and I'll tell you who the legislative director is, who the chief of staff is. I'll send you their emails, and along with the person responsible for health, and you send an email and you copy all of them and say, I've been trying, I haven't gotten any response, nicely, but let's raise that to a higher level. And
okay, thank you.
I'll bet you'll get a response when you put that on the email trail and you haven't been getting anything. And I'll do that for anybody.
Yeah, I did reach out to our systems public policy person, but I have to engage more of the Heart and Vascular Institute to get the hospital support, because she said she doesn't want to call in a favor with him unless every physician in the system is on board. So, I mean, I'm trying, but I'm not getting anywhere.
Yeah, you mean you've got some other political barriers going on, you mean? But
are you a constituent for that person's district?
No, I'm not, but the physician from that program is a constituent, and he's willing to speak, so he can speak from the patient perspective and the physician, and I'm sure it would be impactful if we can ever get a
Yeah.
Zoom meeting.
And he needs to be on the emails that you send, because they look at who's on that and they know who's in their district or not. They look it up. And I'm finding this year more than any year before, I don't know about the rest of you, if you don't have a constituent on that email trail, you're much less likely this year to get an appointment. Easier to do than in person. But they look up, who's a voter, who's in my district. So
Who's running for reelection is also important. No.
yeah, it's gonna be increasingly more important. Joel, why don't you share your bit of wisdom that I just loved the way you would drop that into the conversations in Ohio.
Well, I had an anecdote with my daughter where she had gotten a 5-minute ultrasound, and I calculated that the cost of that was more than 36 sessions of cardiac rehab.
There you go. And there was just silence, right? From the staff.
Yeah, it's all Republicans in Ohio. And so I was making the point that if we want to control cost in healthcare, it's not cardiac rehab or pulmonary rehab. It's drugs and devices and testing. And a lot of it is unnecessary testing. So.
Low value. Yeah, it was a really well-placed analogy, I will say.
I also discovered that one of the congresspersons had recently submitted or sponsored a bill that was very consistent with what we were asking for. So I tried to highlight that just last week, this person introduced something that's kind of the same in terms of like expanding access.
Yeah. And that there was a connection right there. Yeah. So the healthcare package we've been talking about, right? The vehicle, how would this bill go? It's never been intended to go alone. It would tuck into a larger package that a bunch of small Medicare fixed bills go every year. They need to go. Last year, one didn't go because of the chaotic nature of life. So it's overdue. And so happy that ours doesn't have a cost. That won't be the reason it lands on the floor. Nobody knows if this is going to go this spring. Hopefully they wouldn't kick the can down to fall, but that could happen. But fall is going to be so, election swamped that it will be really hard to get attention. So that's why I feel an urgency to get many more names on our bill now, in case this goes this spring. Remember, the 117th Congress ends at the end of December of this year, the 117th, and the 108th Congress begins January of 2023. And that means we start over again. We have to get it reintroduced. We have to go back and get everybody who signed to re-sign. We have to get more. I mean, it's daunting. So the timing would be just perfect, right? For like the sooner the better. I want to let Kathy Sullivan, first I want to thank Kathy for all the communiques, the lists she's doing, the tracking, the data, the keeping the Day on the Hill page current and up and expanding every time I decide something else has to go up. So Kathy, thank you very much. And do you want to share some numbers with us?
I do. Thanks, Karen. Let me pull up my slide deck here. So just piggybacking on what Karen said, starting out with persistence is key. We have had 119 registrants so far this year, and over 100 calls have been scheduled to date. A little plug here to please add your meetings to the master appointment grid. We use this for year-over-year tracking to see what kind of leverage we're getting. If you have problems with the Google Docs, I know some of you are using your work computers or some firewalls in play there, please feel free to send the appointments to me. I am more than happy to add them to the appointment grid for you. So please don't let that be a deterrent. As Karen was just saying, DOTH doesn't end today. I know I titled this the debrief call, but I would say this is more of kind of the mid-call. Please keep scheduling those appointments. Whenever you can get appointments with the staffers, keep going. Today is not the end of this. Today is not the end of DOTH. This is our signature map. I know, Karen, you had said 32 co-sponsors, so it's possible that just the Congress site isn't updated yet. I took a look at it a little while ago. So as of right now, it's showing 28 co-sponsors spread across 11 states. So the purple is where we have at least one signature. So the rest of these gray is kind of our desert map. So just a plea there to keep going, keep making those appointments, keep trying to get those signatures. That's HR 3348. We do have some more signatures here with HR 1956. As of right now, we have 42 co-sponsors across 23 states. So orange are where we have at least one signature. And this is, you've been seeing this a lot in the communiques that I've been sending out. The take action letters, please. I put the QR code here. If you don't have the link already, feel free to just hold up your phone to the screen right now, take a screen grab of this QR code. It's very easy. All you have to do is enter your name, your email address, your phone number. I'm sure a lot of you on the call have already done this. You know, entering your address, it populates your representative, your senators, and sends the letter to them. It's very easy to do. So please ask your friends, family, colleagues. Karen was saying, if you can ask patients to do it, that would be wonderful. The more we can get, the better. So I just pulled the most recent list as of a few minutes ago. And so far, since June 1st, this is our top 10 list of which states have sent out the most letters here. So I think technically I have 11 on there because Illinois and Alabama were tied, but North Carolina has been pretty steadily in the lead here with 92 letters. When I checked this morning though, Missouri, a lot of letters from Missouri the last couple of weeks. So I know you're sending that link out there. So thank you. And I think that was just about it for me. Any questions around any of that? I know Karen's gonna kind of lead us out there.
No, thanks, Kathy. So that's 11 states that have at least one sponsor, 11. So that means 39 states haven't had one House member sign. So we have time to carry this through though, as in the words of our illustrative executive director, Molly Corbett, and she's right. We're off to a great start. We've prioritized those committee members who we have to have, and we need your district, and you understand all this. I thought back to, not to live in the past, but we started in before 2006, but by 2008, we had 220 sponsors signed on, and that's what got cardiac and pulmonary rehab into the Social Security Act as a specific benefit category. So we did it then, we can do it again. That was the 110th Congress. And 6, we had to start all over again in 07 with a new Congress. So we had to get everybody to re-sign, but we persisted. And that's pretty impressive, I think. Everybody came out. I remember a big grid, and I would check off every time one of those 435 members had signed on. So let's do that again. We've come a long way electronically, but continuing the Zoom messages and including the constituent is a must. Getting the patients to sign letters. And follow-up letters in that critical 2 weeks after the call with the health staffer. You know, with the call with the health staffer puts it on their radar, and the letters to the office, the calls to the office. Hey, I care about 3348. Please support it. That's all, you know, and the front person tallies it up. That's how that works. Molly, would you like to say anything as we draw closer to the end?
No, well, Karen, I just want to thank you so much. We could not do this without you. I see so many heads nodding right now in agreement. You are our fearless leader when it comes to Day on the Hill and all things advocacy related. So thank you so much. And to everyone on this call, we really appreciate your your participation, and as Karen said, persistence, or borrowing Murray Lowe's words,
Yeah.
persistence, and we'll get there. So thank you all so much, and feel free to reach out to Kathy, Karen, or myself if we can provide any support in the coming weeks as you continue these calls.
Yeah, I just wanted to throw in 2 more cents of thank you, thank you. I don't think I have anything else to add, but really appreciate the hard work of everybody. I know this is so important and does require that extra piece of effort and volunteerism, and it is so valued. So again, from me personally, thank you all.
Thanks. Anybody else have any, anything to add?
Erin, this is Holly. I just wondered if the Senate bill has any legs as far as the Dem co-sponsor.
We're still working on it, Holly. Every day we've had there's a particular member, and we're working hard, and even yesterday and today we've exchanged some more emails amongst ourselves to try and put some more. We feel like if we get them both in the same room, it'll happen, but
Right. Well, we hit
Okay.
a stone wall in Arizona with our senator, but I keep bugging Sylvia.
yeah, we're trying. I think we're pushing. I think we're pushing the right buttons as hard as we can push, and I feel like we're just so close. So you all will be the first to know.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody. Call me anytime. Happy to join any meetings, especially those E&C and Ways and Means members. Happy to be on with you. You're all pros. Thanks so much, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Debbie.
everyone.
Everyone.
Bye, thanks,
Thanks,
Karen.
Julie.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.